Good morning. We'll get started in just a little bit. We'll give time for everyone to come in and get logged onto the session or get access to the session, but we'll get started in just a few seconds with the August Cybersecurity Forum. All right. I think we're ready to go. Welcome to everyone here. Welcome to the August 2022 Cybersecurity Forum. I'm Damon Nix, Director of Business Development at Impact Washington, the state of Washington's Manufacturing Extension Center. I'm so thrilled that all of you chosen to join us on the forum today. I'm excited especially to hear from our special guest, Kelley Kiernan from Blue Cyber, and for the great conversation that's certain to follow after that. I always like to begin by emphasizing the rationale for holding these forums. Why are we doing this? It's always good to remind ourselves, but our goal at Impact Washington is with the Cybersecurity Forum is to build a community. We want to connect manufacturers, businesses with experts in cybersecurity, as well as economic development partners and our community-based resources. We want to establish a dialogue. So today, we want to give a space where you can ask tough questions and get answers that are relevant for you, on this current state of cybersecurity, as well as the unique challenges that you face as a manufacturer. So as always, I encourage you to participate actively, ask the questions that are relevant for you and your organization when you get the chance. Join the chat, let people know you're here, connect with other folks, reach out to others and build your network. And certainly connect with the experts that join us today as our speaker, as well as our panel. Connect with them and utilize them as resources to help your organization. So we want this gathering to be a building block in your successful cybersecurity journey. To that end, if you're new to the forum, I do want to point out that all of our prior forums have been recorded and are available on the Impact Washington YouTube channel. So you can go to the YouTube and go to Impact Washington, find our channel, and you're going to find every single forum has been recorded. And regardless of whether it's a year old or 6 months old, all of the content and the speakers provided just really excellent information, and you're certain to find something that will help you in your cybersecurity journey. Our topic today is on the Blue Cyber program out of the United States Air Force. We're excited to hear about that. It's great to have partners in cybersecurity. That's why we're doing this program. And if you're a DoD contractor, Blue Cyber is a great resource you'll want to learn about and engage with. As I mentioned, it's a program out of the United States Air Force and Space Force, and it's focused on small business cybersecurity outreach, helping connect DoD contractors to the answers and resources they need to effectively implement cybersecurity requirements related to the contracts they have. So before I get started, though, I want to again thank PNDC for being our partner in producing and hosting these cybersecurity forums. Thank you again to the entire team. Carly, Denise, Bailey, thank you so much for all that you do to get these forums in place and organized. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Carly to share a few words and to make introductions for our speakers today. Thank you.
Yes, then thank you so much for that, Damon. We truly appreciate this partnership, and I am thrilled to have Denise Reiser, who is our executive director here, who's going to share just a few remarks on behalf of PNDC.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. What a great day to have another episode, and we are super excited about our speaker today. Doesn't get any better than the Chief Technology Officer for Space Force and the Air Force being one of our guests. So we're super excited about that. Like Carly said, my name is Denise Reiser, and I am with PNDC. We are the Defense Industrial Base Trade Association for the whole Pacific Northwest. We have, you can visit our website and take a look at some of the stuff we do. But before we get started on that, there's a couple folks, I think, in the that are here today that I want to point out. First, Nick Wilkies is from Impact Washington. He is your Spokane account executive over in Spokane, Washington. So if you're in Spokane, you definitely want to give Nick a call. Impact Washington is a huge partner for PNDC, so we appreciate all that they do. I don't see any other quote unquote VIPs on the list, so we'll just jump right in. I do want to tell you that Kelley is open to answering questions. Please put your questions in the chat. And then when the question comes up, if you want to ask it yourself, this is supposed to be very casual, like you're having a conversation about cybersecurity in a virtual space. So don't hesitate to ask your question. And with that, I'm going to turn it right over to the Chief Technical Officer for the Air Force and Space Force, the newly formed Space Force, Kelley Kiernan. Kelley, you want to take it away?
All right, thanks very much. I'm so grateful to be here talking with you today and telling you about doing cybersecurity with the DoD and the Blue Cyber program that's been developed to help you on your journey. All right, you should be able to see my screen, and Small Business Needs Big Cybersecurity is the name of the presentation. All right, so in the chat here, the folks will put in the link to the website for Blue Cyber, and on that website you'll find all these slides and others, about 30, 40 total presentations and videos to help you on your cybersecurity journey. And they're all publicly released, so you can take them. You can take them and show them at your business meetings and your staff meetings, or repurpose them for your own needs. They're available to you. All right, let's go ahead and start. Okay, so, you know, the importance of cybersecurity for the Department of the Air Force small businesses is critical, because small businesses drive innovation and support the Department of the Air Force missions and our cutting edge technologies. And it's really vital that we form an early partnership. Why? Because if we form an early partnership, then we can supply you with information and allow you to match the aggressiveness of our cyber adversaries, who are absolutely targeting small businesses who have DoD contracts. This education series called Blue Cyber is our version of the early partnership to bake in cybersecurity and allow you to move forward at the speed of innovation, which is what small businesses do best. I want to better protect you, to protect your sensitive information, like your personally identifiable information of your employees, your intellectual property, your financials, and Department of Defense controlled unclassified information. The key to protecting Department of the Air Force airmen and guardians in the exercise of their mission is getting this early start to embrace our common cybersecurity and data protection goals and work together to give you a layered defense for cybersecurity. All righty. So first, let's talk about the FAR and DFARs in small business contracts. These FARs and DFARs are either in the small business contract you already have, or they're in the one that you want, presuming that you want to do business with the DoD. Let's talk about some of these very specifically. So first, there's a DFARS clause 252-239-7010, cloud computing services. This, and it doesn't really matter if you have a contract with the Department of Defense or someone else. Cybersecurity is cybersecurity, and it's illustrated really well here. So this DFAR says that you can't put DoD data on just any cloud. It says that you have to, that cloud that you're going to use has to follow the DoD cloud computing security requirements. And it says that you have to flow this requirement down to your subcontractors. But that's important that you take care with whatever cloud you put your data in, whether you are working with the Department of Defense or you're not. You've got to be really careful what cloud you contract with. And in fact, the Department of Defense says that you will use only a FedRAMP moderate cloud or its equivalent. But FedRAMP moderate equivalent would be really hard to prove. Then there's a FAR clause 5220421, basic safeguarding of covered contractor information systems, which is considered basic cyber hygiene. This is 15 controls that if you don't have them in place, you're in big trouble. And it's so important, and it has nothing to do with CUI. So this, for example, would be like the contractor I talked to yesterday, who cleans office buildings on a base in San Antonio, Texas. She wants to make sure that she's protecting her financials. And so these are the 15 steps that are called out in her contract, which says that if she has to do these things to stay cyber secure, and she has to flow them down to any subcontractor. These are so important, okay, for any small business, or frankly, any adult walking the earth in 2022, that we provide 2 hours of training on this through Blue Cyber every month. And in fact, our talk on this for 2 hours is today at 1 p.m. Eastern. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Oops, sorry, a little fast there. The next one is the DFARS clause of 252204701. This one has a lot of elements to it. It says you have to be ready to report cyber incidents. It says you have to submit malicious software. You've got to be ready to help if there's a damage assessment. And then you need to safeguard covered defense information, which is where it gets tricky. If you have to report a cyber incident, they have a beautiful portal for you, divnet.dod.mil. And once again, this is for DoD contractors. But if you weren't a DoD contractor and you thought you'd been hacked, you could call one of these phone numbers or emails, and they would still talk to you and give you a little bit of advice there. And then there is a cyber threat roundup listed. This is a bi-weekly newsletter on what small businesses need to be concerned about, sort of a very up-to-date list. So coming around to the fourth aspect of 7012, safeguarding covered defense information. Know that covered defense information is essentially the old name for controlled unclassified information. And it says that if you are going to handle or create, and there's a lot of firms out there creating controlled unclassified information, you have to implement NIST SP 800-171. And I left this detail from the original DFARS in there by 2017, okay? So they only gave you the year it came out, which was 2017. They only gave you 6 months to knock it out, okay? And then it says if you're not going to do it, you need to submit the reason why to the DoD CIO. So now the requirement is to do it as soon as practical. But what is CUI? A lot of people don't understand controlled unclassified information, even though it's been around for about 9 years. So if you don't understand it, you can head on over to dodcui.mil, and there's some beautiful training available there. In the end, though, the full implementation of NIST SP 800-171 is the definition of adequate security to protect controlled unclassified information. So if you don't have the NIST SP 800-171 implemented, you are not ready to protect controlled unclassified information. The next DFARS is the 252-204-7019 and 20, and these create the SBIR score requirements. So you're going to do a self-assessment. You're going to score that self-assessment. Then you're going to take it over to this beautiful modern website and put it into a data module, which I'll show you in a second. So this requirement says you're going to take your system security plan. So once again, the topic here is controlled unclassified information. If you're not handling controlled unclassified information, then this is really not for you, with a tiny little exception, which I hope I remember to mention at the end. So if you're handling CUI, then you're implementing NIST SP 800-171, and you will have a system security plan which defines how you're going to implement all 110 items. And then you're going to have a plan of action, because you're not going to be quite done with some of these 110. So this is your to-do list. So you've got these two things, your plan and your to-do list, and then you take them to a thing called a DoD assessment methodology, and you score them, right? How complete are you? And then you're going to take that score and put it in the SBIR system. This is an example of a system security plan off the NIST website, and an example of the plan of action, your plan and your to-do list. So if you need help, there are some templates there, but you don't need to use them. Then there's the scoring. The scoring is risk ranked, scores of 5, 3, and 1. And you're going to apply those to your system security plan and come away with a score. However, know that 42 of the 110 items are considered high risk by the DoD. And if you don't have those in place, then you risk significant exploitation of your network and exfiltration of your intellectual property, and also DoD CUI. So this is really about keeping you safe. And people at this time, right about now, and remember that I have office hours almost every day to talk with small businesses about their cybersecurity journey, and not just Department of the Air Force and not just DoD. I talk with all kinds of folks. I've learned a lot from talking with folks who are just trying to use the GSA contracting system. But what they tell me here is they're like, Kelley, oh, are you nuts? 110 items. Never mind that the 110 is really 320 when you break it down. But I say 110, Kelley, I don't have time for that. I don't have the staff for that. I didn't budget for that. What do you mean 110 items? Well, it turns out that there is no other standard. So if you want to be secure, if you want to protect your intellectual property, your employees' publicly identifiable information, and your financials, this is the federal road to go down, okay? If there was an easier standard, I would tell you what it is. And I had researched that. And I called up the folks at NIST and I said, you know, a lot of people think this is a little over the top. Is there like an abridged version here or something else we can do that gets us, you know, some kind of 90% solution, right? And the answer is no. This was researched for years and years, and it gets updated very, very regularly. And this is what you need to do to be safe in today's world. All right, let's keep going. So you're going to take your system security plan. You're going to take the score that you got when you graded it, and you're going to take the dates of the items that aren't done when you think you're going to be done, and head on over to the SBIR site. You can see on the top, there's an data entry module. You're just putting in scores and dates and version numbers. And then on the bottom, you can see what it looks like when a contracting officer goes in and looks at it. And they will. And these days, if you have a contract that handles CUI, you cannot get a contract, a new contract, unless that score is in the SBIR system. Now, here's the little exception that happens sometimes, which is really strange. Sometimes contracting officers get confused by this, and they put this SBIR's requirement on contracts that don't handle CUI. And now I get companies who are going back to write only 15 requirements, asking me how to create a score and put it in SBIRs when they don't handle CUI, and they're not going to handle CUI. That needs to be handled on a one-on-one basis, and your PTACs are well, and your MEP centers are well staffed to help you with that, or you can give me a call. Then comes CMMC. Everybody's talking about CMMC. Well, we don't get to talk about CMMC very much today, but the good news is that it really doesn't matter, because CMMC is completely based upon the implementation of NIST SP 800-171, which we just got done talking about for 10 minutes. The details around it and who's going to do the audits and how often they're going to be and all this and that will be told to us in the future. And there's really nothing to worry about right now. Just please implement NIST SP 800-171 if you handle CUI. And know that there is a beautiful website, though, because that answer usually does not satisfy most people. You can head on over to their beautiful website and peruse around and take a look at what they think is coming and what they've put into federal rulemaking. And I'm sure the minute it pops out, they'll let us all know. But remember, the CMMC 1.0, which failed in federal rulemaking, had a 5-year phase-in plan. So what will the phase-in plan be here? We don't know, but I'll bet you it's at least 1 year. So that means that when it pops out of the other side of federal rulemaking, you will hear of a 1-year notice to get ready for that audit. But if you've already implemented NIST SP 800-171, which was in your solicitation of your contract, and when you signed your contract, you said that you would and you could implement NIST SP 800-171. So if you'll just do that, I promise you'll be 90% of the way towards whatever it is that the CMMC looks like in the final version. And know that these beautiful documents are here to help you. For example, if you're only implementing the proposed level 1, which is exactly the same as that FAR 21, which I'm going to go over for 2 hours at 1 p.m. They are the same, and that's not an accident. Okay, but there's a beautiful guide there, and that's the guide I'll be using at 1 p.m. Eastern. It's that good. Okay, so that's it for the very basics of doing cybersecurity on a DoD contract. Now I'm going to talk quickly about the Blue Cyber program, which was created to help you on this journey, because it can be a heavy lift for micro smalls. Just know that we're buying down risk because we know that you're struggling. We know that you're struggling because I talk to 200 small businesses every week, and you guys tell me you're not doing it. You're not doing it for a myriad of reasons. For example, it's too tough. For example, you can't find any help. And for example, you didn't budget for it. Know that Blue Cyber is outreach. That's what it is. It's not training, it's outreach. Why? Because I can't make you do training because you're on a contract. If I made you do training, you'd send the contracting officer a bill, right? But I can do outreach, which means that you can come to me. Our goal is to make sure that no Department of the Air Force small business contractor or potential contractor is sitting with any cybersecurity or information protection question. So that's my charter and my full 100% 24/7 job. So do call me, you have my email, or if you don't, Ms. Bailey will put it into the chat here in just a second. We've got all kinds of resource information. We also have 40 short, ultra relevant presentations and videos. And every single Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, we've only missed 2 in a year. And those were at the holiday season when nobody was going to come anyway. But every single Tuesday, in fact, next week, I'll be talking at a conference in the morning and finding some broom closet somewhere to call in to do the 1 o'clock Eastern Ask Me Anything in the afternoon from somewhere in Alabama, where I'll be talking next week. And then daily, almost daily office hours to talk to you and hear your story and help me create the next Blue Cyber module, because Blue Cyber modules are based upon what you want to know. Here's the beautiful website we've created for you. I believe Bailey has put that into the chat. If not, she will soon. Everything you need, including the slides that we're using right now, are on that website. Also, all of our events and the link to get office hours with me. The threat is very, very real. Okay, mostly you all are being phished as small business. You need to understand phishing. You can understand it by going to the CISA website and searching there. You have all kinds of beautiful presentations. The next highest category is user actions, which means you're clicking on the wrong things, okay? Or you're doing things like not turning on the antivirus that came with your computer, or not turning on the multi-factor authentication offered by your bank. These small oversights lead to big trouble. Our content looks like this. And once again, these are questions that I get asked by y'all. There's no agenda here. There is nothing here that I wasn't asked, 24 times before I created it. And I think you'll find it valuable. And 10 of these have been turned into 4-minute videos, which once again, you could show to your small business at some sort of meeting you might have. I have collaborated this program up and down and back and forth the federal landscape, the DoD landscape, through academia. I'm connected with DCMA, who runs the DIBCAC, who do the assessments for the government on NIST SP 171. I've been through their boot camp. I've been an observer on their assessments, like the assessments that you're going to be given under CMMC if it turns out the way it's proposed. And so we did this to make sure, to make darn sure that what I'm telling you is correct. When we started out Blue Cyber, we had a demand signal that grew and grew and grew, so much so that we started to figure out that it wasn't just Air Force and Space Force people. So we started tracking by service, and then we started noticing that public events got more information. And then folks told us a reality, which is to say that when you get that DoD contract, you catch the attention of our adversaries. And so we thought, well, we're going to go public then. We're going to make all of our stuff public. We're going to make all of our events public. I'm going to be available to the public because we want you to be secure, maybe in the perfect world before you ever get that DoD contract. But if not, then real fast afterwards. And I'm standing by, I'm not kidding you. I'm standing by to hear your story and help you. In the end, we've helped over 9,000, and I actually haven't had the time because if you haven't figured it out, I'm kind of a one-gal band here. I haven't had time to update my statistics, but at least 9,000 small businesses and over 6,000 of those Air Force and Space Force. When we have a boot camp, like I had yesterday, for 6 hours straight, we usually have over 1,000 registrants, over 600 attendees, and a resounding 95% say yes, they'd recommend it. And our numbers weren't like that yesterday. And the reason why is because AFWorks social media went down. So I didn't have any advertising. But the percent that recommend is still high, it's still in the 90s. So even though we had a smaller crowd, it actually kind of made it more fun. We were able to like come off mute and kind of just chat. We have professional materials. We have access to our graphic artist. And like I said, every month we have some kind of boot camp. Now in September, I'm going to take 2 days and 8 hours and go over all the NIST SP 800-171 requirements at a super high level. Okay, that's still only like 2 or 3 minutes a requirement. And the reason why is because we want the C-suite in your company to know what they need to contract for, because you do need to contract some help to get this done. You're not going to implement NIST SP 800-171 on your own with Bob from accounting leading the charge. Okay, that's what I get told all the time, because they see it as compliance, which has to do with finance. And so they say, let's have finance do it because it's compliance, like Sarbanes-Oxley. Nope, that's not going to happen. Now, I said that the other day and somebody corrected me. They said, well, we think we can do it. And I said, oh, all right. Well, it was a software company. Okay, well, so maybe if you're a software company, you might manage it yourself. Okay, but if you're not a software company, you're not an IT company, and you're so small that you don't even have your own IT, you outsource IT, you're going to need professional help. As I mentioned here, in just half an hour, I'm going to go ahead and go through all, they waffle between 17 and 15. Some documents have a few of them cut into 2 requirements that equal the FAR 5220421. All of our events are on cyber.gov. So if you ever get lost, go ahead and go there. Don't be afraid to go to cyber.gov if you don't have a cyber. Okay, there's wonderful information there for entrepreneurs and small businesses. I really recommend that website. We made the news and that opened the door for a lot of things for Blue Cyber. We appear on the Office of Small Business Programs event calendars. The Secretary of Defense has said, get everything out of the way of small businesses, and that's what we're trying to do. We have goals, and we're meeting those goals in a resounding way, except I refuse to say that I found all the DoD grant money. I found a lot of it, and a lot of it are in the various states in the MEP centers. But I'm still looking, and I'll never stop looking for that. It's all about NIST SP 800-171. And some people will say, no, Kelley, it's not. Cybersecurity is a culture. Okay, we need a culture of cybersecurity. That's true, very true. But how better to fortify your culture than to comply with the contract that you signed with the government? So I'm here to help on this point. CISA has said shields up even to small businesses. And we had the NSA Cybersecurity Collaboration Center director talk as a keynote at my boot camp yesterday. And she put the fear of hacking in our straight up in our minds. She told stories about how our adversaries are targeting small businesses. And they may be targeting the primes too, but she just talked about small businesses and how we're being targeted for about 40 minutes. And I think everybody was shaking in their boots by the time she was done. So do not underestimate the threat to your small business and your intellectual property. CISA has gone so far as about 6 months ago, they compiled all the free stuff that's out there. They are desperate to have people become cyber secure. And so they just are combing the earth for everything that's free, kind of like me. And they've got a beautiful website here. So if you want a firewall, but you don't have one, you can go there and get one. If you want antivirus, but you don't have it, go there and get it. You want multi-factor authentication? They have free multi-factor authentication tools there. Now, you may not have the professional skill to use those free tools, but if you have a cybersecurity professional, which I highly recommend that you find one, even if they're only going to help you quarter time, and if you search virtual cybersecurity engineer, you will find folks that you can contract for quarter time, which means that you still get the benefit of a professional. They can use all these free tools. They will help you on your journey. They're on your side. They're not selling something, right? They're going to take what you already bought, your goals for your company, and then create a prioritized to-do list, if you will, that POAM, and make sure that you become exponentially more secure, probably every hour that they work if they're a true professional. So know that NSA, if you do have a DoD contract, they are offering these wonderful services, protective DNS, which is essentially they come to your address on the web, okay, and they look at your house and they tell you whether or not the front door is open, okay, because they tell you whether or not you're vulnerable with this protective DNS scanning, and it's constant scanning, okay. Then they have a vulnerability scanning where they're going to tell you how else you're vulnerable, and then they're going to tell you how to fix it. How good is that, right? All taken advantage of by simply sending an email to this email address listed here. And then if you don't have a government DoD contract, or maybe even if you do, you can head on over to CISA's catalog of services. And these services are all free, and they're completely comparable to the ones being offered by NSA. One of the first ones there is vulnerability scanning. So I work on a program that handles small drones for the Air Force, and we needed to have those small drones have a vulnerability scan. We had to wait 6 months to find somebody to do it, and then they were $40,000 a piece. So this is nothing to blink at, okay? There's some real help at CISA and the NSA Cybersecurity Collaboration Center. Of course, if you need a mentor, you could get a mentor on cybersecurity. You can get a mentor if you're having trouble writing business plans. Whatever you need, score.org is a fantastic way to get a mentor. But there is no better help for you in the United States of America with cybersecurity than your NIST NEP center in your state. So head on over there and find out what they're offering. They may have programs that have been subsidized by the DoD. It varies from state to state, and get yourself some cybersecurity help. Of course, if you don't know the name of your PTAC, you just have a hole in your pocket and money is falling out, okay? So everybody needs to know the name of their PTAC and be on a first name basis. And I'm not exaggerating, and let me illustrate why. In Ohio, the PTAC partnered with the SBDC to offer 15 free hours of cybersecurity assistance to small businesses. But if you weren't keeping up with the PTAC, you never would know that that was happening. Unfortunately, that only happened in Ohio, although we're lobbying for it to happen everywhere else. They used CARES money to make this, CARES Act money to make this happen. Okay, if you need help creating that score we were talking about, Project Spectrum can help you create your score. And if you need to know where all of these people are that can help you, because Kelley's just one person, once again, head on over to cyber.gov, and along the top menu over on resources on the side, on the top, far right, you go down to local assistance, put in your state, and like that, you're going to have everybody's website, everybody's email, and everybody's phone number. The cyber.gov website is a gold mine for you. Okay, we're about done here. Everything that I have to offer on Blue Cyber is on my webpage. You have my email right there. You can just email me. How many government folks hand out their email? Okay, here's mine. I want to help you. I really do. Whether you have a DoD contract or you don't, or you want one, or you're thinking about it, or you don't want one at all, but you want to know more about cybersecurity, I'm available to help you. Every Tuesday, every single Tuesday, we have 1 p.m. Eastern, Cybersecurity for Small Business, Ask Me Anything. That's what it's called. And then we have the website where all this information can be found. All right, and I think that's it for me.
Thanks, Kelley. I think that was super informative. I do have a couple questions that came through.
Sure.
First of all, on the cybersecurity, you listed a website for professionals. Are those vetted by the Air Force specifically, or how do you become a cybersecurity professional on your website, or are they all government employees?
So I did not list a website with cybersecurity professionals. I wish I could. That actually turns out that this is a problem in this world, okay? There aren't enough cybersecurity professionals, and you have to kind of sort it out for yourself, unless you head over to your NIST MEP center, in which case they will have cybersecurity services to offer you, or they will refer you to someone else. So we have a blue cyber, which I highly recommend, called Questions to Ask a Cybersecurity Provider, to make sure that you don't get hooked up with somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, or somebody who's just trying to sell you, or somebody who wants to give you a 70% solution. I did a whole podcast on the 70% solution. We have people out there calling themselves managed service provider, and they're going to give you a customer responsibility matrix. And in the end, 30% of everything that has to happen is still going to be on the list for you to do. And you're not looking for a 70% solution. You're looking for some kind of 95% solution, right? Because if you're a small business, and let's say you have an SBIR contract, and let's say there's 7 of you, the reason why there's 7 of you is because it takes 7 of you and your head's down on that contract. So when you get help, you want to make sure you get real help. When you pay for help, you want to make sure you get what you're paying for. You don't want to say, pay for something, have people say, oh, I thought I was getting help. No, here's a stack of templates. That happens almost every week. I get that phone call. Here's another phone call I get every week. Kelley, we hired a cybersecurity professional and they have some questions about NIST SP 800-171. And I have to tell that little company, sorry, you hired the wrong person, okay? NIST SP 800-171 has been around since 2016. In the right hands, it is simple. In the wrong hands, it's still a mystery. So you need to find somebody who's implemented NIST SP 800-171 before in a business of your size.
Okay. Actually, that's good information. Second up, I'm wondering on the SBIR scores, we hear that term a lot in this space. How accurate, since it's a self-assessment tool, how accurate do you, representing the Air Force and Space Force, think those are coming across?
So we have a real problem here. Okay, so the DFARS 7019 and 7020 call for the self-assessment, and they call it a low confidence self-assessment. And the reason why is because we know that system security plan was created probably by Bob from accounting. I'm not kidding. Okay. You're so small that you don't have your own IT, you don't have cybersecurity help. So Bob from accounting created the system security plan. Bob from accounting ran the DoD assessment methodology against it. And Bob doesn't even understand the questions, okay? So that is already considered a low confidence self-assessment. And that means all we're doing here, the whole reason why they did that is to get baby steps going, to get people used to system security plans, scores, POAMs, putting it into a website. Why? Because CMMC is coming. And when CMMC gets here, all those things count. They are no longer low self-assessments, right? That are done by somebody who's not qualified. Now they'll be done by somebody who's qualified. So I wouldn't sweat your self-assessment, okay? Now you want a good one because, and your MEP center will help you with gap analysis and things like that, because you want to start getting where you need to be, right? You want a good assessment because you want a good POAM, so you can start knocking those items out. But if you are in the place where you have to do it yourself, right? Maybe the first one you do on your own, I would not sweat it, okay? Because it is a low confidence self-assessment. Now, 2 years from now, when CMMC comes along, it's a whole different ball game. But right now, we're just trying to do baby steps. We're just trying to get people going down the right road. We're just trying to get people understanding NIST SP 800-171.
Very good. I have a question from one of the, I think it's one of the insurance companies that's here, but on the cyber insurance side, many carriers are asking that applications be completed by the CISO to have a higher level of confidence that the answers on the cybersecurity controls are more accurate. Is that a true statement or?
So I don't know anything about cybersecurity and I do not insurance and I do not have an opinion about that. But let me
Okay.
tell you this, okay? The threshold seems to be about 30 employees, maybe, no, about 30 employees. At about 30 employees, a company has enough business and enough success that they hire their own IT, okay? And once you have your own IT, now you have a CISO. Now you have someone who understands the language of cybersecurity. You can send an IT person to cybersecurity school and end up with a cybersecurity person, not an experienced one who's implemented SSP and 171 before, but somebody who will speak the language and can help you navigate. But below that threshold, and the threshold would be having your own IT, you don't have a CISO. You have Bob from accounting, okay? And so you're not going to find a CISO in a tiny, small business. They don't have one. And I don't recommend that they go get a virtual one, okay? Because they're too small. What they need is a virtual hands-on cyber engineer who can actually talk to them about their machines and their plans and access control and their antivirus and their multi-factor authentication, okay? The quarter-time virtual cyber engineer, I believe, is the solution to this problem that we have right now with the micro smalls not having the right staff. I hope that helps.
Yeah, it does. I have one more question. I know we're backing up into your time, but you represent the Air Force and the Space Force. Some of these questions apply universally to DoD contracts. Can we fill up your email box with questions that have related to the Army and
Yes,
Navy?
yes, but a better thing to do, because if you send me an email and ask me a question, I'm going to ask you to make an appointment on office hours. So on that beautiful website we created for you, on the right-hand side is the office hours link. Just hop on the office hours and we'll be good.
Okay, and
But you can send me an email. You can send me all the emails you want. And now I need to hop on over to my every Tuesday and get started there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kelley. It is, you were great. Thank you. Enjoy your Tuesday event.
All righty. So long.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. I could have asked her questions for like an hour. Damon, she kept sending folks to the MEP. Do you have any, you can obviously speak for the Washington MEP. How do you work with cybersecurity professionals for your manufacturing base?
Yeah, thank you so much. Absolutely. We've worked in a number of ways. It's really custom, I will say custom to the need, the scale of the company, the type of resources they need. But we've had a lot of success supporting companies with cybersecurity, implementing, whether it's implementing NIST, 800-171, as she mentioned, is foundational. It's something we believe as well for the coming CMMC requirements, or just starting at the gap assessment or helping someone finish. You know, you've gotten down the road, but you need that expertise to close the gap on those high level technical solutions. We have resource partners in our network, some on the call here today, who are readily available to help you solve those problems. In terms of resources, certainly we hope that your companies, recognizes the need and the value of making that investment. But we have resources in the state of Washington to help. Particularly if we're looking at NIST 800-171, particularly if you have a few people who can join in to be a part of the program. We have grant funding that comes through the State Board of Community and Technical Colleges that may be able to offset your costs if you can comply with some of their requirements. There are obviously in both states, I know Oregon and Washington, there's the STEP grant program that if you can show that your cyber is related to some export activity, that's a nice little funding opportunity, and there may be some others. So I encourage you to you reach out to myself. I can connect you with the account executive that's in your part of Washington, or if I don't believe anyone from the Oregon MEP is on the line, but you can reach out to me if you're in Oregon and you're a manufacturer. I'd love to connect you with Aaron Fox and Mike Vanier, who lead up the Oregon MEP organization. So I know they have some great resources as well. So I think we have completed about 75 cybersecurity projects in the last year and a half. So we've helped, some of it's getting started, some of it's larger projects, but I think we've probably got as much experience as any MEP in the country. So we'd love to help you.
So if I'm from Oregon, I can still contact you, Damon, for a referral?
You can, yeah. Now, actually, I'll refer you to Oregon. Of course, I want you to get connected with, if you're obviously working, if you're in Oregon, working with the Oregon MEP is going to maximize your support, because you won't be able to access any of the funds through our program. So
very good. All right, well, let's move on to our panel. I think I have Dave Henderson with Cyberstreams on this panel today. And I think I also have Michael Downing from Intech on this panel today. We would love to have manufacturers talk to us about what they're doing on cybersecurity, but we're struggling to find people that want to talk about it. So if you're willing to share the things you've done and the mistakes you've made potentially and the places where you've done a really good job and want to share with your partners in the manufacturing community, please let Carly or myself or Damon know so we can include you in this conversation. But I'll start with Dave. Dave from Cyberstreams. Dave, you want to introduce yourself real quick and tell us a little bit about your company? And I think you've worked with Impact Washington, so could you touch on that as well?
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, Cyberstreams is an Impact Washington resource partner. I've lost count of how many projects we've done with Impact Washington. Quite a few last year where we were able to put together grants. And I posted about this in the chat. Future Feed is a product that GenEdge, if you're familiar with those folks over in they're around Washington DC, they're kind of the pinnacle MEP, did a competition. I believe over 100 different companies competed, and it got narrowed down to Future Feed as the best choice. And as I posted in my chat, Future Feed offers training and webinars, and they are telling me that quite a few companies are signing up for Future Feed and not hiring consultants like us and getting to where they need to be through that training and that tool set. I have on the line with me actually Chris Wiggins, who's our compliance consultant, and he's done most of those projects and is very familiar with Future Feed. And I'd love for Chris to pop on really quick and just say a little bit about what it means to be accredited. You were mentioning earlier, or I'm sorry, the speaker was mentioning that you don't want to hire fly by night, right? So, yeah. Hey, Chris, will you come off of mute and just talk a little bit about?
Wait. Before we do that, Dave, I want to introduce our other panelists, Michael Downing from Intech, and then we'll move back to Chris. Michael, do you want to do the same, a little bit about you and your company? And I don't know if you were a resource partner for Impact Washington, but a little bit about that as well.
Sure, thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Michael Downing. I'm with Intech Consulting, and we help businesses manage their technology. In particular, I work in cyber risk and compliance. I have experience in healthcare, and I'm pivoting over to the CMMC space to help small businesses in our local area of the Northwest meet their NIST requirements. That's a little bit about me, and I'll look forward to hearing about others, but I have lots of stories to share about what kind of barriers we had, what kind of solutions we discovered.
Yeah, so let's move back to Chris. Was it Wiggins?
Yeah.
From Cyberstreams.
Yeah, and just to be clear, Michael and Chris would be contemporaries.
Okay.
Yeah, hi there. So I've been with Cyberstreams for about a year, and I kind of did the same pivot as Michael. Did the last 10 years working for a very large healthcare organization doing their HIPAA compliance and customer-facing HIPAA compliance for like 4,000 dental clinics, and then made the pivot because everything is NIST in the end, over to CMMC whenever I got on with Cyberstreams. And I'm just excited to kind of be here and kind of talk a bit about this.
Okay, so let's start with the speaker that we just had. I'd like your initial thoughts on some of the stuff that she said, some of the website. Have you guys had experience with some of those sites that she's sent you to, and what's your thoughts on using that as sort of a baseline for cybersecurity? And Dave, do you want to start with that?
I think Chris is going to respond to that.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. So she'd mentioned the CISA threat feed, and that's probably the most important one if you're in the industry. If you are a cybersecurity or an IT person, or if you have an IT person, getting the information from CISA as to what new threats are out there is probably the biggest benefit if you have an existing IT program. If you don't, then the Blue Cyber program and the other one that they started up, I can't remember the name of it, but it was the actual like DoD as a whole. They have a lot of like templates and like starting from zero walkthroughs on like creating an incident response plan, for instance, and using those resources to kind of start fresh has been super useful for some of our clients.
Very good. And Michael, did you have any additional comments you wanted to add to that?
Sure, thank you. I was most familiar with the CISA.org information that she outlined. That's a great place to learn about emerging vulnerabilities and make sure you're staying abreast of the latest news as it pertains to national defense. One resource that I rely heavily on that I don't hear mentioned is the Center for Internet Security. That's CISecurity.org, I believe. And what I like about it is it takes this whole computer information system environment and breaks it into 18 families of controls. And they provide lots of helpful resources as well, such as benchmarks for how your computers should be set up to make sure that your doors and windows are locked, so to speak. And if you are a contributing member, sometimes you can get those as image files. So instead of going down a checklist and checking off everything that you changed on your computer, you can just get a file that has that configuration.
Very good. I want to remind you folks, if you have a question for any of these folks, just raise your hand and a comment. This is very much supposed to be interactive. And if I'm doing most of the talking, it's exactly not that. So again, with the blue Cyber Blue program, and it applying both to the Army and it seemed like she was a one-person show. Was there, I mean, when I was listening to her, I thought, no way can she get back to all these people. You guys are going to fill up her inbox on your own. So does anyone have any experience with them, or answering and responsiveness? Do we feel like this is a good resource for our members? Anybody want to take that? No.
I really enjoyed the presentation. With just this presentation we experienced today, we understand how we can find the tools that we need to assess our current cybersecurity posture. We can fill out a SPIR score and submit it as well. And what I like about the templates provided by NIST is you can check yes or no for each of the 110 controls and get your SPIR score. But that also becomes a very useful gap analysis. I'm in the habit of copying that tab on the spreadsheet or copying the file itself and just excluding everything but the no's. And there you have a really clear, shortened list of what you need to follow up on to change those no's to yeses.
Oh, that's a good idea. What about you, Dave or Chris from Cyberstreams? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the templates that, the templates that NIST gives are, they're very basic. They do give you, a very base SPIR score. I would recommend some tool that goes into the assessment objectives. Kelley had mentioned very briefly that there's like 110 controls, but really there's like 320. And that's the thing that I keep catching folks on that come to us for consulting, is they've done just the NIST templates and they think that that is just the end, and they know where they're at without actually looking into, all right, if you answer yes to this question, that means you have to do all 6 of these things, and those things are in a different template. So just knowing that there's 2 parts to that document is probably really important if there are any, folks starting their program on the call.
That's absolutely the biggest gotcha that I'm seeing on the consulting side of it as well. And what I'd like for everybody who's interested in Identifying where they're at with their SPIR score is that you open up the NIST 171A companion document. It's at the same site where you find the NIST controls for 171. And for each objective, for example, limiting system access to authorized users, there's going to be compliance objectives, in this case, A through F. So I definitely recommend as you're working through your SPIR score that you're referencing these compliance objectives, because if you're missing one, for example, it's not considered a full implementation. The other reason why I really recommend checking out the what's called the assessment procedures in NIST SB 800-171A is because a lot of those compliance objectives are in very plain English, something that Bob from accounting can understand, and if not, at least do a first pass so we can make as much progress as possible before bringing in more help. And to give an example, the first one is how does your organization define who is an authorized user that gets system access? Each company will have a different answer per their definition. But the other one is, well, how do you limit system access to just what's defined? And I think if you work down this assessment procedure in 171A, filling out your SPIRs as you go, you'll often find that what you need to do is define what should be there and define a procedure or a mechanism that limits system access to what should be there. So some of it will require some help and some of it's in plain English. So I would encourage everybody to not be intimidated and at least review it.
Great. Lisa Peterson has some comments. She's attended one of her sessions. Lisa, you want to unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about your experience with Kelley? Is she Lisa Peterson? There
we go. Thank you. Sorry, I was struggling to figure out the unmute. So yes, I've attended a couple of her Tuesdays, and what she has to say is pretty much the same each time, which is actually very helpful because we're going through it. We're a small business. We only have 5 employees, and it can be really overwhelming to come into this and say, okay, you've got, all these hundreds of controls and you have to meet each one, and what are you doing? And I'm not a technical person, I'm in management. So it's been very helpful. And I think the materials that she refers us to have gotten better over time. I appreciated Michael's comment about that some of this is in plain English. And I think that has evolved over the last, we've been doing this about a year, I think, maybe 18 months. And it has evolved from a lot of tech speak that came from the technical world, which you do need. But it's now down to, they understand that some of us are not at that level and it's not helping us to progress. But she's amazing in answering emails. Just pop her an email and she'll pop you the resource back if you're not familiar with it. And she's, not able to do anything, she can't help everybody walk through the process, but definitely pointing in the right direction is her forte.
Very good. And I want to move on to any updates that our professionals might have on that. But I also, apparently Bob is looking for a job because Bob failed several times on the cybersecurity stuff as Bob the accountant. So if you have an opening for Bob the accountant, this would be a good time. But let's move on to, and again, Dave or Chris, are there any updates since we last were together on the cybersecurity program? Anything we should be aware of in this group?
Well, there was a very large release from the CMMC accreditation board in the last couple weeks. It's the CMMC assessment procedure, the CAP. We've been waiting for that document for like 2.5 years. It's kind of like the missing half of what the CMMC assessors are going to grade you against. So if you've got the time to read, I think it's a 40-page document, or at least the draft that I read was, it goes through and tells you what a CMMC assessment looks like on the ground. And it's the guide that a CMMC assessor will use to assess your organization. So if you don't have the time to read it yourself as a business owner or as a Defense Network member, make sure that whoever is running your cybersecurity program does. Even if you're not going to read it yourself, make sure that someone who's working on your compliance knows how to do it or has read that.
And Chris, is there a link to that for our group here? That
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
Very good. Michael, do you have any comments on any of that, the upcoming CMMC releases and such?
Well, I think a great point was made in our presentation that a lot of it is anchored to national standards. So as the CMC continues to mature, I think you'll still be in a good position to pivot toward the newest CMMC initiative if you're focused on your NIST standards.
Okay. Dave, did you have anything you wanted to add in that?
You know, as you know, Denise, I'm a business owner. I've written a book on cybersecurity essentials. My focus is more at that level of things, which is why I've got Chris Wiggins on the call today. But I think I like to stress every time we have these calls that, you know, a few things. First of all, this is a business problem. It's not a technology problem, right? And when you look at the controls, some 40% of them are about people and process, not technology. We constantly call this a technology problem. Your technology is not a technology problem, and it's a whole bunch of people doing stuff. So you've got to start with that focus. I remember doing a follow-up call with Chris with a very large organization that we did a consulting project with, got them into Future Feed. They just subscribed to it for another year. Future Feed pumps out this really cool round chart that shows the area in your organization and how well you've done in this weird little cloud. And IT, all the IT stuff was done and all the business stuff was barely done. And we see that over and over again. So, you know, my recommendation to people is don't put an IT person in charge of this, right? Put a business owner in charge of it. Get the president and the vice president standing behind it and engaged with it, right? And understanding how important it is in your organization, right? If you start there, you'll have success. If you don't, you'll take care of the tech side of things, you'll miss the people side of things, and you'll be out there, you know, risking our vital Department of Defense secrets.
Yeah. So that book that you mentioned, how does one go about getting a copy of that, Dave?
I'll go ahead and put a link up, but it's cyberstreams.com, Dave's book.
Okay, very good. Do I have any other questions I'd like to ask Nick, because he's sort of on the ground, right, Damon? So how many questions do you get on cybersecurity? How do you handle it with your clients? What's happening over in the east side of the mountains in the cyberspace?
Yeah, one thing that comes up a lot is just how do I even get started, right? And so we always kind of, it's like anything we implement at a manufacturer, whether it be ISO or AS9100, it's let's just start with kind of a gap assessment and see where you're at and kind of get you into this SPRS system and get you at least self-reporting. And then from there, we can get a kind of an estimate of just the level of effort, approximation. How many hours is this going to take? How many, you know, what's the software solution going to be? And then an estimate of pricing. Like Kelley said, we're always hunting for some financial help too, as that comes. You know, one thing that came up is obviously pricing, and I work with Damon and a few others on trying to kind of put together a cohort model where we could spread some of the costs across 4 or 5 manufacturers all in the same room. And we work with Dave and Chris at Cyberstreams as well to kind of round that model out. We weren't able to fill it, but we still think it's a super interesting working model for small manufacturers or any small business that when the price tag comes across, it's like, oh, can you divide by 5? So we got a pretty good way to divide by 5. We just need some people to commit to it. So that was the way we addressed some of the financial concerns too.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just chime in there. Yeah, it was really interesting because we yeah, we did slash the price by 5. We created a model to get it down to you know, a 4-digit price tag for manufacturers to get this done, and we didn't have any demand. We called and called and called, and so that's I'm and maybe that's not the approach. Maybe NIST 800-171 hasn't been, but I hope after today's call with Blue Cyber, some folks recognize the need to do that. We definitely want to. Our mission is to try to make this process as cost effective and meaningful and impactful for the organization as possible. So if you let us know you've got need for this, we'll do whatever we can to make it work financially for you. So we recognize there's a huge need out there, and not everyone's gonna be able to self-serve. So yeah, so the more companies we can get to collaborate, share costs, do all those kind of things, we're happy to be the medium or the conduit to try to make those things work, to spread the costs out for manufacturers. So anyway,
Hey, Damon, I'd like to add on to that. As you know, we put a lot of work in with you folks to put that model together, and we're still committed to it. But you know, you and I have sat down and talked, and what we're seeing out there right now with CMMC in, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but CMMC doesn't even exist today, right? It's still CMMC 2.0 is not ratified. And I think you've got an awful lot of people out there in a wait and see mode. And I think the moment that CMMC 2.0 gets ratified, it's out there again, there's going to be a lot of people figuring out that they're way behind. And the floodgates are going to open with folks needing help. You know, just last month, you sent somebody over to speak with me, and Sikorsky called them up and said, we're not going to buy anything from you. Sikorsky is their only client. And Sikorsky said, we're not going to buy from you anymore because your spur score is too low. And they're scrambling, trying to figure out how to get there. So I think we're in a lull. And I think people think that, you know, they can kind of answer the questions, figure it out, assume. That's going to change in the next few months and years, I believe.
Yeah, I'm hoping that as more DoD personnel like Kelley get out there and keep talking to people and have these outreach programs and these webinars trying to reach the defense industrial base, we'll start seeing people start taking it seriously. The fact that we don't shut up about it should tell people that it's still happening. And that's why I just keep bothering people and make sure that they understand this is coming. It is happening. The requirements are not going to go away because they've been there for 6 years now.
Very good. I hate to do this, but Nancy Bromell, I see that you're on the line. She's from Stack Metallurgical, which is a great Washington and Oregon manufacturing company. I assume you're in the IT department. Do you want to speak to this a little bit? Nancy. Nope.
She's on another call.
Yeah, Lindia from, let's see, you're with Summit West Environmental?
Yeah.
Are you the IT person there? And what did you think of this presentation? Did you understand it and have any questions about it?
No, I'm actually the safety officer, and I thought that this was really helpful. I'm just here to learn more about what we could do to improve our cybersecurity. So this is just a good start for me.
Okay, cool. And let's get to, is Ryan Fuller from Sigma on here? Ryan, are you on here? No? Ryan Darrell from Sigma Design?
Yes, I am here, but I'm actually driving in the car through Southern Oregon, and I don't have great coverage.
Okay. Okay.
So I'd like the call dropping a couple times. So.
Okay. Well, great. Is there any other manufacturer on here that would like to make a comment on their program today and have any questions for our cyber panel? Michael Legge?
Yeah.
Lee?
Yeah. Leger. Yeah, so I'm actually a cybersecurity analyst intern with Tradecraft Washington, which partnered with WIOA and 418 Intelligence. And I worked for a host employer that is a small aerospace manufacturing company, and they were looking to get ready for CMMC. So having this being brand new to me at the time, I did a lot of research and I did my best to perform a gap analysis. And through my research, I came upon impact, and I believe I talked to Brooke, who I believe she's on the call. And I essentially also recently gave them a presentation on essentially just the criticality of implementing CMMC within their organization, and presented that to senior management. And I gave them a lot of resources. I passed them your resources and Project Spectrum. I think I grabbed some other ones from today as well. But yeah, I enjoyed the presentation. It's some things stood out to me that I didn't know before that were new. So those are helpful. Definitely looking at, I believe it was Kelley. I have her contact, so I can forward that to the owner. So yeah, I mean, there was great value in this. I just kind of wanted to see what other resources were really out there for this company. And that's my main reason for being here today.
Very good. Well, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I have a couple of insurance people on this call and ask a question about financing and such in the DoD space. A lot of folks are trying to get small business financing and they're running into trouble at the bank level. Can either one of you speak to that? Justine or Rick or anyone else in that space?
So from my side, we don't particularly deal with the actual financing of implementing the cybersecurity protocols. But what we do try to do is point people to resources where they may be able to, find the money to do what they need to do. We're running into a bottleneck to where not only do we have the NIST requirements, but if people haven't implemented certain, basic cybersecurity hygiene, they can't get insurance anymore. And then on the plus side, if you have implemented everything, you can get, deductible waivers or deductible credits or, premium credits and things like that. So to the point where you have implemented controls, you actually end up saving on the insurance and waiving deductibles, which means you don't need deductible reserves as high as you used to. And then that in turn can go feed back into financing the next priorities in your cybersecurity program.
Now, when you're saying you can't get insurance, are you talking about cyber insurance or insurance in general?
Specifically cyber and data breach insurance and ransomware, everything like that. So there are people who are now falling out of being able to get certain limits that are required by contracts. So, a lot of contracts are asking for 5 million limits or 10 million limits. And we're seeing those towers now kind of coming down. The insurers aren't extending the amount of insurance in certain areas that they used to. So we're seeing a crunch on capacity on one side. So the implementation of all the standards that I'm seeing here today are the things that help our clients regain capacity, and which can be a minimum contractual requirement, or again, be able to get a deductible waived, or if there's a $50,000 deductible, they might get half off. So then it's only $25,000 per claim. So, from our side, we can handle some of the risk transfer and risk financing, but the only thing we can do is perhaps help them prepare something to take to a bank to be able to get a line of credit to be able to implement things, so we can show that they are appropriately insured, that it's not going to fall out of the back end. And sometimes that does help them when they're applying for a line of credit with a bank.
Okay,
Denise,
Rick,
I'd like to comment on that if you don't mind. I am now requiring new clients to have cybersecurity insurance, and that's becoming the norm in my industry. It's a huge topic right now. And there's a big advantage to signing up for it that I'll speak to really quick, and some big advantages after you've signed up. But the underwriting has become increasingly difficult. And that should tell us something. I was in a webinar recently where they were estimating that 15% of small businesses, even the best protected, are getting breached in one way or another. The ransomware folks, this is not about DoD, this is about just mentioned basic hygiene, right? So the underwriting has gotten very difficult, and that process of underwriting really shows you where your holes are, where your problems are, and helps you plug them up before you get the insurance. Then once you have the insurance, if you are breached, the insurance company has an entire team of people that descend on you, lawyers, cybersecurity experts, you know, it's a team of people that come in to help you with the problem. So there's a big advantage to it at the beginning and the end. It's not that expensive, and it's become an imperative part of protecting your business.
Yeah, just to speak to that a little bit, we have somewhat a frightening statistic. 65% of all US businesses experience a breach, hacking, or ransomware event in the past 12 months. So that's where the underwriting is becoming now much more rigorous, because, you know, that's only the people who found out that they've been breached. You know, we're actually assuming that percentage is higher than that. So, you know, when we talk about this being, you know, a threat to a business or a threat to national security, you know, it's very, very real right now. So, you know, people teaming with some of the cybersecurity experts here is a key to just, you know, plugging that hole in the dam, basically.
If I can jump in, we've had really good success lately working with defense contractors and aviation contractors that are going through CMMC, and we've been able to get them access to the limits they need. And we're able to do working with the insurance company, do a background, see if there's any open ports, and that helps big with the underwriting process. And then we're also have been able to get them limits for contingent business interruption, which is something when you're looking on the finance side, when you're proposing something, that business interruption is a big piece of that. So we've been able to leverage that coverage working with finance companies, specifically with government contractors, to be able to help them negotiate, you know, more capital because they're able to, you know, protect against a lot of those risks. You're on mute.
Thank you, Rick. Oh my God. Someday people aren't going to have to say that to me, but I don't know if it's not today, obviously. We're about to wrap up. Damon, do you have any last minute comments you want to make on this cybersecurity event?
No, I you know, really appreciate everybody's input. I think the story is out there, the narrative, you know, it is coming. We're doing our best at Impact Washington as the state's manufacturing extension to be prepared. That's why we thought about things like these cohort programs, and they're looking and trying to find whatever resources we can to support manufacturers, because we do know it's coming. It will come, whether, you know, January, February, whenever it is, there's going to be a huge spike in demand, but we want to be ready. We're ready now. So if you're a manufacturer, if you know a manufacturer, please point them to us. We want to be a resource to help connect you with trusted resource partners who've delivered for companies at your size, and we want to be a partner in helping you identify ways that we can help reduce the cost of that implementation. Yeah, just reach out. We want to help.
Very good. And let's see, Carly, you must have something you want to, I probably forgot to say something, and Carly's going to just now announce what that was.
No, you've actually done everything. I do want to really call attention to the fact, and I most likely Bailey is chatting it right now, and sure enough, she just did. It's we really shared a lot of some great information in the chat today. Links to the websites during Kelley's presentation. Some other resources were shared by those who spoke. And so please take a moment to download your chat before I close out the program today. And just so that you will have that information moving forward and have those resources available to you.
And Carly, are you sending out a survey?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so Carly's going to send out a survey to you folks, and please let us know what kind of programming you'd like to see in the future. We work very closely with Impact Washington. This is their show, and we want to know what you want to learn. So
Absolutely.
with that being said, I want to thank Dave and Chris from Cyberstreams and Michael Donnelly from our friends at Intech, and obviously Kelley Kiernan, and my partners at Impact Washington, which is Damon, Nick, and Brooke. And I apologize, Brooke. I didn't call on you, but next time you'll get called on for sure. So thank you. I'm going to give you a few minutes back of your day. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to give it just a few moments here, and as folks start departing, I'll shut it down, but definitely want to make sure that if you need to save your chat, you're doing that right now. And then I will be closing everything out here in just a few moments. So thank you all for joining us, and have a wonderful day. Look forward to getting that survey, because we want to hear from you about future programming topics and what you want to hear from us. Have a great day.